This is the Big Woods Bucks podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine master guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood, sitting here down at Joe's camp at Parlin with Joe Cruzy.
Hello.
And Lee Libby.
Howdy.
And we're inside recording this for you, but we was wishing we was outside doing something. And so anyways, today we got team member Joel Carvell joining us. And
hello.
Oh, there he is.
How you doing?
We're doing good. How about you?
Well, not too bad. Still lots of snow up here.
Yeah, any snow? I was going to ask you, is any snow up in the North Country up there where you live? Where you live, Masardis?
That's where my camp is, but I'm actually over on the east side, over in Mars Hill, Maine.
Mars Hill, yeah. Potato country, right?
Yeah, just about 15 miles south of Presque Isle, about 30 miles north of Holton.
Is that country still dry up there?
Well, a lot of the little towns are, but they're changing.
Yeah.
Your town must not be with you living there.
Yeah, no, it hasn't been for probably 20 years or so.
Yeah.
I
thought that was funny. I stayed in Mars Hill one night and couldn't get a drink anywhere.
Yeah.
How do they have any sled traffic up there?
Well, years ago, they used to keep on going north to Presque Isle, but now they tend to stop.
Yeah. You know anything about potatoes, Joel?
Yeah, that's what I do for going on 27 years now. I'm in a family-owned business. My brother and mother and father, and we buy potatoes and arrange the trucks and ship to a processing plant in North Carolina that makes potato salad. We ship probably 99 to 100% of the potatoes actually go into that plant.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what you call a captive audience, ain't it?
Yep. It has its ups and downs.
Yeah.
That's a lot of taters.
Yeah.
Usually when it's slow, probably 25 to 30 loads a week. And then in the summertime, it's actually our busiest time. We get up to probably 45 to 50 loads a week.
Holy mackerel.
That's a lot of potatoes, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, you're cutting into the French fry market, ain't you?
Well, actually, a lot of the varieties we use, some can be used as French fries, but most of the guys that do the French fries there's different varieties grown specifically for McCain's or Frito-Lay.
Oh, they're probably longer, bigger potato.
Yeah, they have different. Yeah, they do, and they have different specific gravities there. They when they fry them there, they end up coming out like the lighter color. They don't get the darker colors.
Oh, yeah.
I never would have thought a potato had to have a specific gravity.
Yeah.
And if the gravity will affect the sugars, and that's what affects the colors of the potatoes. If they go in and, if they test, they'll fry a load to test it at the French fry places there, and if it fries too dark, a lot of times they'll reject that load of potatoes.
Wow.
I thought I was pretty smart when I walked in here this morning. Now I realized there's a lot I don't know.
The place that we ship to, we don't have to meet like a fry color, so because everything's going right into like the potato salads.
Yeah,
that's a lot of potato salad.
Yeah. Hey, you know how I like my potatoes, Joel?
How's that?
With a deer steak sitting beside him. I bet Lee does too.
Yeah.
And some corn, right?
Corn. Yeah. Give her the corn.
Not green beans, just corn.
Yeah. I prefer like a baked potato myself, but it's getting so everybody's so busy these days. Nobody has time to come home after work and put one in the oven.
Yeah. All right. So, how long you been on the Big Woods team, Joel? I can't even remember all you guys coming around here, you young guys, and
going on 4 seasons now.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yep, summer of 2015, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. How'd that happen? I can't even remember that either. Shows you I'm getting old. My memory's going.
Yeah. Well, I think actually first time I ever met you, you probably don't remember. It was around 2003 or 4. I actually bought your book down at one of the Augusta shows, and learned a lot. Learned a lot on tracking and stuff. Didn't have great success at first, but got better as time went on. And I think it was that buck that I shot or tracked in 2014 there. Actually used the Big Woods Bucks limited edition gun.
Nice.
And sent the picture into you guys. And the following spring, I met with you guys at the Augusta show and talked with you. And a couple months later, I get the call from you asking if I want to be on the team.
Nice.
Yeah.
I must have saw something in you, huh?
Maybe, I guess.
I thought he was going to get a deal on some baked potatoes.
Yeah. I probably looked at him and say, a guy that built like that can track. He's going to inspire a lot of people. I think it's them Fred Flintstone legs that keep you motoring up the hills, ain't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm more along the lines of Barney Rubble. I'm a little shorter than Fred Flintstone. I think you could call Lee Shantz, Fred Flintstone, me Barney.
Yeah. 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 When you pull your lacrosse boots on, they're snug around the calves, ain't they?
Well, if you want to know the truth, I usually have to cut my boots down to about 16 inches because 18 inches hits me back of the knee.
That's funny right there. So you don't need hip boots then.
I was thinking of sending an email into lacrosse, see if they'd make me a special pair, but I don't think it'd work.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Yep.
So you're hunting mostly up around there, Joel? Or?
Yep. Usually up in around the county here.
Well, you got a camp.
I did buy a camp here a few years ago over in Masardis, so I am over in that area a little bit more.
That's Hal's way of giving up your spot right there.
Yeah.
Well,
So how's your? All I've been seeing is the record snowfall up that way, which we've got a lot here too, but it seems like up there it's even more.
Yeah, I think we're somewhere around close to 160 inches, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
How are the deer doing up there?
They seem to be. Of course, some of the yards are right in close to some of the towns, so some people are actually probably feeding them a little bit, but they seem to be doing okay. I haven't had a chance to get out on snowmobile and really check to see if the coyotes have been at them very much. There's a few deer around here. I sent Hal a video the other day, but they are sinking quite a bit in the snow. There's up until, of course, this weather now when it's warming up will help settle some of the snow, but there wasn't a lot of moisture in it, so they were still going right to the bottom.
Yeah, I was telling these guys, the little deer around here, the fawns, if they jump off the trail, they get frightened, if you come along with the machine there, and if they jump and they're not in a trail, they can't hit bottom, so they're stuck, and they can wiggle their way out, but that's how the coyotes get them. If they jump off a trail, and little ones are done, they can't hit bottom.
Yeah,
but
the probably the thing that the deer, the little group right around here, probably about 20 or 25 deer. But the thing that's actually helping them, my neighbor sets up a bait for coyotes, and he told me the other day that I think they got 25 coyotes right here, right behind his house.
Nice.
That's unbelievable in one spot. 25.
One spot.
That's a lot of coyotes just for coming to one bait. I never heard of that before.
Yeah. Well, I think like you and I had the discussion, they know these deer are here, so that's probably calling them in too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They follow the deer to wherever they go, and we've been going all winter, 'cause and yesterday we killed a pair. But they're getting pretty thin. We're having trouble finding tracks now. We just finally, today, the guys, they worked their way to the kind of around the south side of town where we found some the other day. We decided we'd get in there. But we got a pair yesterday, and we only found one other track that we couldn't. It was too late in the afternoon to work it out because it had kind of melted and stuff, But we got them thinned out, and the deer really seem to be having a good time of it without the coyotes pestering them all the time,
We should hire you to come up this way next winter and take a few out of over by my camp.
Well, you probably ought to get yourself some hounds.
He said higher.
Well, I didn't say how much money either.
All
See,
the potatoes you can eat.
I would think somebody up that way would get going with it. It's quite a sport. The guys, I see more and more people kind of getting into it now, you know, and that young fella up in Allagash, I don't know if you've seen him on Facebook there, Brandon Lane, boy, he just hit number 50, and I think he just went by it up in the Allagash deer yard. And he usually hunts pretty much by himself. His wife goes some, but he's got 50. We got 29, but we had 48 last year, but I don't know if we could get that many this year because they ain't around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We go run the same kind of routes every morning trying to find a track, and you can't find a track. And if you get away from town, you can drive for miles. You never see a coyote track anymore. And it used to be in the winters here, there was so many coyotes, even when you got away from town because they're territorial, there'd still be coyotes, 5-10 miles out of town trying to eke out a living because they weren't allowed to get in around the other ones. But those are gone. I think we cleaned the ones in town last year, and then more moved in, and we pretty much got them cleaned out. So it's been good.
There is a local guy over towards Masardis way that does it, but I haven't had a chance to see how many he does or how many coyotes he killed.
Yeah. The other thing that's helping over here is there's been quite a bit of woodlots being cut, around town and right in where the deer are staying, and it's really helping them between packing the trails and giving them the feed. This would be the good thing. It was this winter when we we had some more snow. It was a good winter to have those small woodlots cut,
Right.
Who's over in? Someone told me that someone running hounds in Greenville is up to 50-something this year.
In Greenville?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know who's in Greenville.
Yeah. Yeah, they're hammering them over there. Yeah.
See, every area, because it's no secret anymore, a lot of the deer yards are near the towns. But, if there's a group of guys in every town doing that, they can really, really help those deer. Because I noticed our deer, since there's virtually no coyotes in the main part of the deer yard, the deer are starting to spread out. They walk across the lake, they're not nervous anymore,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Some of the guys around here in the past, they really, like around the farms and stuff, they weren't getting the permission to be on the land and made a few of the farmers upset. So some of the guys in this area kind of give up on it.
Oh, yeah.
Geez, of all people, you think farmers would want the coyotes dead?
Yeah.
Well, they do,
the deer
but
eat the crops too.
it's just it's their land, and they kind of like to be told who's going to be there. Asked permission there.
Yeah.
Right.
Just one of those things.
That's a good point. I guess it depends on what they're farming.
Yeah. Do the deer? The deer must eat some of the crops, don't they? And no.
So surprisingly, they'll get into the broccoli.
Yeah.
Which is a little further north of me here. There's not much. Once in a while, there'll be a few fields of it right here, but most of that is up around Caribou and Limestone and some in Presque Isle.
Yeah.
But you will see the deer come in and feed on that broccoli.
Huh. Yeah.
Same moose too. The moose do a lot of damage to the broccoli.
Yeah, that was that whole premise of that early moose season a few years back. They were giving out tickets.
Yeah, they still do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now it's all for the disabled veterans.
Right. Yeah. How many of them permits? How many permits they give out for them now?
I think it's 25.
Oh yeah.
Each year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good cause, and
yeah, for sure.
The vets get the chance to be in camp with other vets, and they tell the stories back and forth, and it's actually kind of like therapy for them.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, whoever came up with that one, that was a good idea.
Yeah, real good.
Yep.
Let the vets shoot those moose.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So Joel, up in your country there, you don't have the mountains like we have over here in the western part of the state. You got more like, I'd call it like rolling hills.
Yeah, what we would call a mountain, you guys would probably call a ridge, maybe, or a horseback. There's not a lot of mountainous area up here. It is just mostly rolling hills and small ridges.
Yeah, you got a
lot of cutting though up here too.
Yeah, you got a lot of green growth.
There's in the swamps and stuff, there is a lot of spruce and fir and cedar.
Yeah.
They it's funny, the deer will be down in those, but they seem to be right in back of a lot of the cuts, not too far away from them. They'll come in the back part of, feed like that.
The hardwood cuts, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best feed for them anyways, around them hardwood cuts and stuff like that. But is the population pretty good over there? I've never hunted up that way.
It was a really good year up here. A lot of big bucks were shot later in the season, obviously. A lot of them going towards the yards and stuff. It'll be interesting to see once the snow goes, what's made it through the winter. But up until this fall, things were starting to really look good up here.
Yeah, good. Hopefully they make it this winter pretty good.
We're trying to find spots to send more hunters.
Yeah.
Get them out of Rangeley.
Yeah. There's a few more hours drive involved with getting up that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all what you make of it.
Yeah. No, there's plenty of deer around for everybody. So,
how'd your season go last fall, Joel?
Well, I passed up a couple small bucks. I had one little one there about 30 feet from me. I did get on a little video on my Tacticam there, but I chased a few and jumped them, and I got close to them, could see some tails going. And then I think it was Monday of muzzleloading week. We were as of like probably Tuesday, Wednesday of Thanksgiving week, we really started getting a bunch of snow. I think we had around 2 feet of snow by like Wednesday of Thanksgiving week. And so it made it a little tougher. You had to, figure out where the deer places that were headed towards the yards. I didn't hunt in the yards, but we had to kind of go to different areas. And we end up using our snow sleds a lot because of the snow was so hard to get around with the vehicle. So snow sleds and snowshoes was pretty much the way we had to do it. Well, Monday, we had a couple pockets of deer we were hunting there, me and a friend of mine, and we went in to check a pocket of deer, and there wasn't much for tracks, so we came back out the road to the first bunch of deer that we'd been hunting, and we noticed a fresh buck and doe track cross the road. So I jumped on them and just got up in off the road about 200 yards, and I realized there was about 8 deer had been bedded right there, and they all had took off. So it took me about an hour to figure out, where that buck, which track was his and coming out of that group of deer. So I finally figured out, and he was with 3 other does, and they were jumping there for about a half a mile. Finally, they started settling down, and there was a little hidden clear cut, and off the right-hand side, there was a patch of hardwoods, and then it was probably about 200 yards wide, and then there was some strip cuts with, skidder trails. Well, as I was going through that little hardwood area, headed for that first twitch trail, it looked about, I don't know, it was probably 120 yards from me, and there was a doe that was walking and laid down. So I watched her for a minute, and obviously it didn't have antlers. So I figured the buck was, in that area there somewhere. So I continued on the buck track and only went about another 20 feet, and I looked, and the buck actually come in off that first twitch trail towards where that doe was laying down. He was probably about 80 yards from me, and I didn't have a greatest shot because it wasn't very open. But I kind of found one little alleyway that I could shoot, so I waited for him to get to that alleyway, and I touched my muzzleloader off, and he stopped right in his tracks, and he backed up about 3 lengths of himself. He took 2 or 3 jumps to the right and jumped over a log, all with his tail down. So I thought, well, maybe I did hit him. So I kind of lost sight of him, and I reloaded, and I snuck down. I got actually to within 50 yards of him, and he was standing broadside this time, wide open shot. But I could see his nose, but I couldn't see his head. And I couldn't tell if he had antlers or not because he's in those winter beech leaves. And I watched him for probably 90 seconds at 50 yards right broadside, and I didn't dare to shoot. And I pulled the gun down just for a second, and he swung to go, and it was him. But by that time, I had no shot. So it was a clean miss.
Yeah.
So I followed him probably for another hour or another mile, and I jumped him one other time, but no shot. So he was a big high racked. It looked like about a 10-pointer, but I think he definitely would have been over 200 pounds.
Wow.
And the following day, I tracked another nice buck, and he was always just kind of right in front of me there. I never could get a good look at him. And followed him to about 3 o'clock that day and come to the end of this winter road. And we had all that snow. You know, in the winter roads there seemed to be more snow than on each side of it. But I ended up coming that winter road, and the snow was right up to my waist. And I had my buddy finally pick me up there on a snow sled, and I didn't get out to about 4:30 before I got out to where he could get to me. But it was a good year, even though I didn't kill. So I did pass up. There was another spike horn I passed up. So that's
now
basically how my season went.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You're in the game anyway.
Yep.
So when you said the snow was up to your waist, you were saying it was 2 feet deep? Is that what you meant?
You said that. Hal and I both looked at each other. We were just biting our tongue.
Yeah. Like I said, when
it was 16 inches.
It was at least 30 inches. Let's say.
Yeah. Remember when we were over the show in Vermont there back in December there? Remember when we had the panel there, the Big Woods panel, question and answers, and I had everybody stand up. It was, I think, 6 of you, wasn't there?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And I had everybody stand up. And I said, "There, now you know it. You don't have to be long-legged and tall and lanky to be a deer tracker." I said, "We come in all shapes and sizes."
Yeah, I kind of think that was a short joke there, but
it's quick.
And it wasn't. The funny thing, it wasn't planned, but I happened to be sitting down at the far end of the deal.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of graduated. You know, it's just the way you sat down. It was then you, and then the next one taller right up through, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
The unfair thing about it is I've got a son that's 6 foot tall.
Yeah,
and
he's lanky.
Every day around the house here, he's looking down at me, and he kind of reminds me that he's taller.
Yeah, yeah, he's doing good too, hunting.
Yeah, he's 16 right now, and up until this year, he got 5 bucks in a row. And he actually passed up a fork horn and 2 different spike horns this year.
Yeah.
And so he actually had a good season. It was his first year he could hunt on his own. And I didn't hunt right on top of him. I kind of stayed away. But, you know, if I was in the area, he was in there quite a bit. But he went in, he knew where there's some signpost rubs, and he explored. He did a little more sitting. He did do some tracking. Yeah. And but he saw quite a few deer.
Yeah, yep. He's going to give me a run for my money, ain't he?
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah, I think he is. It ain't going to be me, but it might be him.
That's a pretty good accomplishment. Time he's 16, he's already shot 5 bucks in a row.
Yeah, and especially up in this area. You know,
for sure.
And he does have one. I guess he was 14. He shot his first 200-pounder.
Yeah,
at 14.
Yeah,
nice.
Yep. So
it's always a neat feeling when you start 16, you know, and the first time you're hunting on your own, and that's a good time in the woods.
Oh
yeah. Oh, he sure enjoyed it. I tell you, one day I was tracking a buck for quite a while, and I pretty much figured that he wasn't going to slow down at all. So I called my son and had him come pick me up in his truck, and that was a weird thing to see. Him coming along all on his own, to pick me up.
Yeah.
He just got his driver's license there last year.
Yeah.
Yep. So
now you got a hunting partner anyway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's good.
Of course, now he tells me some of the areas that I took him, now he's kind of claimed those, so he doesn't want me in those spots anymore.
Yeah.
We do that to Hal all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Lee's been doing it for years.
Yeah.
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 I can't wait to go back to the spot next year that he shot his buck this year. That was a nice area. Probably going to be some traffic there though now.
Yeah, they'll all have Raisley plates on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's why you were in a hurry to help him drag, right? To learn the spot.
That's right.
well, one thing's for sure: if there's any plates there, I won't be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty of place to go.
Oh yeah.
I always tell people think I got some secret spot I shoot all my bucks in, and I've only ever shot 2, like in the same area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Over the years, and it might be spaced out, but yeah, there's deer everywhere. Just got to go find them.
The joke that I have around here with a few of my friends, I shot a nice buck on a road back, I think it's 2007. And now all my buddies, every time I shoot a deer, they'll ask, was it on that road? Or if they shoot a deer, they claim it was on that road, even if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my buddies actually shot a deer on another road and went over to that first road I was talking about and unloaded his deer and took the picture there right close to where I'd brought mine out. Just to razz me a little bit.
Yeah.
A for effort.
Yeah. What's the name of that road?
Yeah, well, somewhere down Rangeley.
The Rangeley Road, huh?
Good answer, Joel. Good answer.
Come on down. You won't be alone.
No.
Yeah, if you get lost down there, if you holler a few times, somebody will come by.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
I still can't believe Lee was telling his story. He's tracking that buck and runs into 6 hunters in the woods.
There
I'm
was
like, you got to be kidding me.
Six different people walked by that track.
I ain't seen 6
Really?
people in the woods up here since I've been up here.
I told the cameraman and another buddy that was up in that country that morning, I said, this is it. If I don't kill something here today, I'm headed for Appleton Corner in the morning. And they said, oh, why? I said, well, what's the matter, Hal? Did I give another spot up?
Oh, you're giving up.
Appleton Corner in Mars Hill.
He's giving up. Now he's giving up all the Matt Vining spots.
Yeah.
I'm not saying a word.
It don't matter.
Matt, just know I said nothing.
You know what the funny part is? I'm going to tell you something right now. You might shoot a deer in one spot. He comes there once a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They travel so far. He could be from 10 miles from where you shoot him. People don't realize that. They think he lives right there. No.
Well, I thought that a few years back. You find a real good spot, it's just covered up, and you think next year they're all going to be in there, and you don't find a deer track around. So
No.
you got to find them every year anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that signpost that my son actually set up on, we found it, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, and we've got pictures in the last 3 years of that buck, and none of those pictures are on the same day, and he's only around there once, like Hal said, he's only there once a year, or once that season, and most of the time it's at night when he comes through there.
Yeah. There's so much country to cover that just you can. That's why I used to get a kick out of it when people would come up to stay at the camps, or hunting on their own. They'd come up, and I come up a little early so I can get out and pattern some deer. And I'm like, you might as well forget about that right now. You ain't gonna pattern any deer here. Yeah.
You got to find their bedding area too, right?
Yeah, the bedding area. Yeah, the bedding areas on a buck is spread out over 10 miles. He lays down when they do have particular spots that they like. I will say that if they're in a certain area, there's a little pinnacle or a little spot that they'll like, and they might lay in the same bed every time they go by there, but it ain't very often they get by there in that exact spot.
Yeah. I followed a buck once from, I can't even say names anymore, but it was mile 18 to mile 9 that day on that same road. He kind of paralleled this one road. He'd go in, come back, go in, come back, but there was 4 different occasions where he turned and like he was going to go lay down, and I'd sneak into that spot, and you could see where he had laid or stood in kind of a little depressed area on a perfect little spot. And then he'd step off and take right off. He did that four times that day. And I asked Hal that night, I says, I tracked that buck 9 miles. He paralleled that road. In 4 different spots. He went to a spot where I could tell a deer had laid before.
Yeah.
And took right off. What do you think he was doing, Hal? And Hal says to me, just as serious as could be, well, he had something else to do, Lib. But it was late muzzleloader. He was headed to the yard, but he wanted to lay down, but he didn't,
Yeah, he felt he had to get somewhere.
Yeah, but that was spread out over 9 miles there.
Yeah.
But you could tell that either he or something had laid in that one spot.
Yeah.
Time and time again.
Hey, everyone. Hal here. You want to join the hunting club as soon as you can, because that's where you're going to get all my information. I'll have short film hunts, video tips, articles every month, and there's also a forum on there for you people to communicate. Maybe you'll meet a new hunting buddy on there. And the other thing is a question of the month. Submit a question, and I'll pick one every month to answer, and the winner's going to end up getting a decal for their truck. Join up at bigwoodsbucks.com. Hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And, of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com.
I come to a bed one time. Well, the first time I came there, I was coming down across the very top of this high mountain there in the green growth, and all of a sudden, I hadn't seen a lot of sign, and all of a sudden I started seeing a few fresh tracks punched in, and I'm like, oh, there's a little bit of sign here. And I remember it was foggy up in there then that day. You couldn't see very far anyway, so it was quiet, and I was going along, and geez, all of a sudden, right in the fog, close, like 30 yards, I see this tail go just once, flip there, and waited a minute, probably grunted or done something, but I walked over where it was, and it was out on the edge of almost a cliff, real steep bluff, and it was a buck, and he was laying right on the edge under a spruce tree, probably a 16-inch spruce, and the bed underneath of it was bare ground, and the bed was like a foot deep.
Yeah.
Looks like it'd been pawed out over the years, and there was all kinds of dried up droppings in it from the years, them old dead droppings that are tan colored,
Yep.
And that buck, I'm sure, that was his little perch when he got to that spot, and I can see why, because all he had to do was take one jump, and he was down off of this thing, and it went down in a ravine and was gone. So anytime I ever got back up in there, I'd always sneak along, try to find that spot and look, Yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually seen something like that.
Yeah, they do it. They do it. It's certain places that they just like it there, and it's probably always been protective for them. But one of the guys from town, this is kind of funny too, it's the same thing. He was Eric Hall. He was hunting up on one of the mountains there, and we had an early snow that year. I remember it was the first week of the season. It might have been Residence Day or something. And he got on this buck track, and he come up over this knob, and this buck jumped up, and he couldn't get he had heavy gloves on or something. He couldn't get safety off or something. The thing got away on him. Nice buck anyways. So the next year, I think the snow had melted off or whatever, but for some reason, it was the next year anyways, it was bare ground. I don't know if it was probably the first week again, and he says, I'm going to go over and see if that buck's laying in that bed again. And don't you know, he went up over that, peeked over that hill, and that buck was laying there, and he shot it laying in his bed.
No kidding.
Yeah, a big one. It was like well over 200, 240 or something. Yeah,
Nice.
laying right in that bed.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a coincidence. He happened to pick the right day that he was there, but yeah. Cool.
Nice.
That stuff happens. So always remember them spots. If you happen to be along,
definitely.
you find one of them.
Yep.
Yeah. What else you got to say, Joel? I want to hear a buck story.
Oh, I've told you the ones I missed.
What's your biggest buck you've shot?
219.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I actually didn't track that one, but I did call it in with a grunt call.
Oh.
I got it. I was hunting down the back side of a chopping, and I found a cedar tree. It's probably about an 8 or 10 inch cedar tree, and it was tore all up, and no snow on the ground. I said, I gotta sit here for a while, and I ended up sitting down, and I think I was there a couple hours. It was kind of a cold day, but I found a spot where the sun was hitting it there pretty good, so kept me warm. And because normally I can't sit. I mean, I could sit a half hour, an hour, if I'm in a really good area like this. But so I sat, and I was about every 20 to 30 minutes there, I would blow grunt call 2 or 3 times. Well, I think it was about an hour and a half into it. I thought I heard a return grunt. It was almost like a growl. I said, I know that wasn't, how a tree sometimes, if the wind's moving a tree, the bark will make a noise there. And so I grunted again, and this buck was standing probably about, 60, 70 yards from me. And all of a sudden, when I grunted that last time, it come right towards me on a twitch trail. And
just walking?
Just walking, but he was being fairly aggressive. He was coming for that call.
Yeah.
And he ended up coming. He was within 20 yards of me. And when I first shot, and he ran right by me, and I could tell he was hit pretty hard. And then he kind of looped back up and run right straight away from me. And all I did was walk over to where I last saw him running, and I see the blood on both sides of the little trail. And I think I followed him 50, 60 yards, and he was laying there dead.
Yeah.
Big high rack 10-pointer, nice long tines on him.
Nice.
So
yeah, you always got to be creative. Figure out a day. If it's bare ground, figure out something to do.
Yep. One thing I was doing this year, when I saw that little buck that I passed up, I found a bunch of tracks right on the edge of a little small pond. Wasn't very far off the road either. And we had 2 or 3 inches of snow, but it was really crunchy, crusty. It wasn't like there was just a little layer across and you would step down to soft snow. It was really noisy. So there was actually a lot of deer tracks around. So rather than try to track, I'd go along about 200 yards, and then I would take my little doe bleat. I'd do that 2 or 3 times and just listen. And I ended up seeing, I think, 12 deer that day, right in that little area. One of the best days I've ever had. And I didn't see, a big enough buck that I wanted to shoot, but I did see that little small one come right up close to me. But just like you said, sometimes you got to create your own luck and try different tactics if the conditions aren't great.
Yeah, you got to be a deer, right?
Yep. Got to be a deer and think like a deer.
Sound like a deer.
Yep.
So, what was speaking of calls, what was the history of the Big Woods Bucks call? That was replicated, correct?
Yeah, that's back when I was, I don't know, I think I probably got that shortly after I got out of the Marine Corps. I bought it was called an Alaskan deer call. Come in a little white box, I think, with red letters. And it was a molded plastic 2-piece call with 2 rubber bands on it. One was for the sound, and the other was to hold the 2 halves together. It kind of fit together with 2 pins. And it just said deer call, and it had a little instruction paper in it, and said to blow on it. It would make the, a bleat of a doe or whatever. And it said it was kind of funny because it said it was good for all kinds of deer, white-tailed deer, mule deer, black-tailed. It was good for any deer. And I'm like, all right. So I started carrying it with me way back from the beginning, and I'd I'd bleed on it some, because when you get something like that, you don't have a lot of confidence in it until it works, right? Same way when I started with a grunt call, you're like, that thing ain't gonna work, So I actually, when I would bleed on, I started when I would see a doe or even a small buck, I would just practice with it. I'd see what their reaction to that noise was, and it never spooked them. You know what I mean? They'd be curious about it or whatever, and not that they would come walking right to you or anything. And then I remember it was earlier on in the guiding times when we were up remote camp, I started playing around with it, and I blew hard on it, and it made a snort noise, and I'm like, geez, I bet that would work for a snort call, to snort at them, So I started using it for that more than the bleating, you know what I mean? So I started every time I used to, back then I had a grunt call too, and if I'd jump a deer, I would grunt at it. But I realized, and especially like in the dry leaves, a grunt call isn't very loud, right? So I figured that snort they'd hear that no matter what. So I started using that, and I can remember stopping deer they'd be right in mid-bound, and when they hit the ground, they'd be locked right up and looking back. And I'm like, boy, that thing really does work, But that being said, I never did lock up a big buck. I had them go out of sight and stop, but I never had one like just lock up and turn around and look back. I think they're just a little more savvy than that. But lots of does and small bucks, yearling bucks and stuff like that, they would stop and look right back. So,
well, if it's that hot doe that's stopping and the buck's with it, then there's your...
Yeah, well, I just think when you blow that, well, it was a snort was more just, I think they just felt it was another deer that spooked them. They'd run and you'd snort and they'd go, oh, another deer, so they'd stop, And so anyways, I think I wrote about it in my first book, and then I said, we looked it up because I tried to find some more, people wanted them, and I said, what I found out was that company had gone out of business. I think I bought mine back in the 70s, and so we looked it up and couldn't find one, and then we went and looked at the patent on it, which is expired, and I knew we'd hunted in New Brunswick for a few years, and the guys used to make them. They'd whittle them out of wood and just put the rubber bands on them,
Yep.
And so I said to Chris, let's duplicate this thing. There's a patent's gone on it, so that's it. We went to a company and got them to make the die to extrude them, and we just started making them. And we put, instead of Alaskan deer call, we just put big woods bucks on it. And yeah, but it's just it's small, it's easy to carry, it's versatile. You can use it for a bleat like you would. A lot of people carry a can call, and they work great. There's no doubt they do, but it's kind of a little more of a cumbersome thing to call or what carry around. So it's a dual purpose call. You can snort and stop them, or you can, if you want to bleat and see if you could bring one back. This year when I shot my buck, I was telling you I was trying to get it to work, and it was all full of pocket lint and spruce needles, so I just used my mouth and did it. But
that should be the name of your next film.
Yeah.
Yeah, pocket lint and spruce needles.
Yeah. So that's the history of that call, and it works good, and we've sold quite a few of them.
Yeah, I carry one on a lanyard around my neck all the time.
That was Kev's idea to put that little lanyard thing in there. We had to mold a little square to, some people like it just put it in their shirt around their neck, Yeah. Probably if I did that, I wouldn't get so much lint in mine, huh?
Yep.
I got another little story on the grunt call there if you want to hear it.
I'm sure there's lots of people want to hear it, especially if there's a road name associated with it.
No, well, this went back quite a few years ago, and obviously I didn't have quite so much experience. Well, I always hunted with my buddy Ed, and back then we didn't have cell phones, didn't have two-way radios to get hold of each other, and we'd always the type of, he'd say I'm going this way, and I'd say I'm going this way, and somehow before the end of the day we would do totally the opposite and wind up in the same spot. Well, anyway, I was on this little horseback there, and I this little horseback ridge, and I decided to sit down and blow the grunt call. Well, I did it the first time, and just within seconds, the buck grunted back at me about 60 yards, 70 yards out, and I was like, wow, maybe this thing works. Well, I did it again. Well, the grunt call, or the buck grunted back at me. This went on for about half an hour, but I couldn't get the buck to come any closer. And just then I said, well, I'm going to, get up, see if I can see him. Well, just as I decided to stand up, so did Ed. He was 60 yards from me, blowing the grunt call back at me.
Must have sounded good anyway.
Yeah, it sounded good.
I'm sure that's not the first or last time that's happened.
Yeah.
No, probably not.
I had it happen with a client once. We was on. I can't even tell you where we were now because Hal's going to give me hell. But we was on the backside of this mountain.
He's learning, Hal. He's learning.
Yeah, finally.
We beat the ford in there with snow was pretty deep, and got in there and had to go through this beaver flowage. And I said nobody's going to be in there. Parked, went up, cut a buck track. He headed up over this ridge, and he had a grunt tube with him, and the buck acted like it was going to do something, lay on that ridge or whatever. And he said, let me try my grunt tube. And I was against it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, whatever. So I was young, though, early guiding season or early guiding years. And so I let him blow that tube. And by cripes, we had a buck grunt back. And I said, whoa, he's right there. So we snuck a little bit further, and I said, blow that thing again. He blew it again. Right there. I said, that sounds like a Walmart grunt call is what that is. If that really if a buck sounds like that, I'm going to go buy one of those things. We didn't go another 100 yards, and I looked down through, sneaking along. I looked down through, and there's an orange hat, and a guy standing there with that grunt tube in his mouth. And I showed the client. He says, what do we do? I said, I'm going the other way. So we turned tail, and I headed for the truck because I didn't want to be around there. I couldn't believe there was another person in there. We got all the way back to the truck, and one of them green plates was parked right beside my pickup truck. I'm like, you son of a gun. He followed our tracks right up in, and we got to that ridge on that buck track, and I think what he was trying to do is circle around
Oh, of course.
that buck, and get an advantage. But yeah,
Cut you off.
yeah, that was I don't even own one of them tube grunt calls. Maybe I should.
They're useful.
They will work on certain
Oh,
times.
absolutely. They're
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I've used them before, like if there's crunchy snow and I knew a buck was right in front of me, and I would just grunt as I walked along and walked in on him. I didn't always get a good shot or whatever, but that has worked for me in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you ought to be able to go a little better this fall. I heard you're getting a tune-up.
Yeah. I got to go next month there and actually have a full hip replacement.
Oh,
Yeah. I figured I'd get to 50 years old before I'd start feeling this stuff, but I didn't make it.
How old are you?
49.
Holy
49.
smokes. Wore your hip out already. Probably because you got to take twice as many steps.
I think so. That's a good point.
now you can tell people, because I need a new hip. I've walked twice as far as you have.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's a good answer. I am going to use that too. Yeah, I got to get down in Portland and have it done. They tell me it should be a lot better. So having it done now so I can recover by deer season.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yep.
So you got a question you wanted to share, Hal? Question of the month?
Yeah, if I could get onto your internet service here, I'd probably do it.
You're not ready yet?
No. You know me, I shoot from the hip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just gotta.
Joel's going to be shooting from the artificial hip here pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right.
I asked the doctor if he could make me about 6 inches taller, and he didn't think that was going to work.
Yes. Put an extra long
Actually,
rod in there, huh?
Yeah, I'd be happy with 2 inches just so I could wear a full full-size pair of lacrosse boots.
Maybe when you get your knees replaced, they can do it then.
Stretch you out a little bit.
Stretch it out between your knee and your foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We got Hal set up here now.
Yeah. Well, you and
Dealing with the elderly and computer stuff is difficult. We got to watch them every step of the way.
yeah, sure. You young guys, you got to look out for us older fellas,
We're
So
trying.
you and Chris will be in the same boat. He just had his toe operated on. He had that bone spur in his toe, and
I saw a picture of it the other day. It didn't really look that pretty either.
no, they had to. I guess it was pretty bad. They had to cut the bone out in the joint and put 2 screws in it to hold it together, and so he's going to be immobile in that toe joint, which it's not very mobile anyways in that where that goes into your foot. But he said the doctor told him he'd be good as new come fall, so we'll see.
Have to
I
change
think
the name.
that's been bothering him for a couple of years now, hasn't it?
Yeah, but you know him. He won't go. He just keeps suffering through something. The doctor said, "You will walk. How the heck did you walk like that?" Because I guess it was so bad that the doctor must have figured the pain would have been too bad to even walk.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh no, Chris,
Yeah,
he'll tough it out.
He was up here a couple of years ago. They're filming me and my wife's moose hunt there, and I could tell it was bothering him. He never said a word, but I think it definitely was hurting him.
Yeah.
Geriatric trackers.
Yeah.
Have to change the name.
I've only been under the knife once. They cut my neck there.
Yeah.
Tried to cut my head off, but they put it back on.
Yeah. That was a bad experience, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They cut your neck. What do you mean?
Well, I had I don't know, what was it? I had a blowout between the 6th and 7th.
Yeah, you had a herniated disc. It blew right out.
Yeah. And so
They go in through the front?
No, they went through the back. And I still can't feel anything, that left index finger.
Oh,
Nothing. No.
Wow.
I'm in a pocket.
You don't need that anyway.
No, if it was a right finger, I'd have been upset. But no, they said it'd come back after a year, but it's never come back. So
It's got a little too much nerve damage in there.
yeah, but I'd move. At least I can go. But I let it go a long time. I let it go till I was immobile.
Yeah, I remember.
I couldn't move.
Yeah,
Yeah. I said, now I got to go to the doctors.
yeah. Yeah, let it blow up and then go to the doctor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've been doing, Joel, is the last, I don't know, we started the last couple of podcasts answering some of those questions of the month on the Big Woods Club side there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been just kind of going through some of the questions that didn't make the cut for the question of the month that I post there. But I had one come in the other day that was such a long question. I thought we would address it here because there was no way you could, I'd have to write a book to address the whole thing. So I'm going to read this question, and then it's really not one question. It's a bunch of questions within this little half a page the guy wrote in, but I'll read it, and then we can discuss different aspects of it and see what we think about it. But it's pretty neat because it was a guy from, I think, North Carolina anyways, and he actually tracks in the mountains there when they get some snow. But he said it's not that often, but he hunts. I didn't realize they had that high of mountains, but he's talking about up near 5,000 feet.
Wow.
So here it is anyways. Here's the question. Hello, Big Woods Bucks. I've really enjoyed all the features of the hunting club, especially the podcast with Hal, Lee, and Joe, and the other team members. I love hearing and learning about tracking whitetails in the snow, but I also really enjoy the passion, camaraderie, and humor of listening to you guys share your Northwoods experiences. It's like being in deer camp all year long. That's kind of neat because quite a few people have had that statement about the podcast.
Yep.
And we appreciate you saying that because it's fun for us doing it too. It's like being in camp. I also appreciate the general woodsman skills you guys share. My question may be difficult for you guys to answer, but it has to do with tracking deer in the snow in the rural, vast, and remote southern Appalachian mountains. I live in the mountains of North Carolina, and also hunt in the mountains of southwest Virginia and eastern Tennessee. I'm blessed to live in an area where I have access to large tracts of public land, national forests, on which to hunt deer. I would say these areas are mini versions of the North Maine big woods, and many are 100,000-plus acre tracts, varying in elevation from 3,000 feet in the valleys to 6,000 feet on the high ridges. I don't think it's quite 6,000 because I believe in the east, Mount Washington's the highest, and that's just under 6, ain't it? But anyways, I share Hal's lack of patience. I'm not much of a stand sitter during rifle season, and that is the way most everyone hunts in my neck of the woods. I've been interested in tracking deer in the snow since I visited your old place in Maine many Octobers ago. I still remember seeing the biggest deer of my life on that trip while walking to Hal's preset stands. Came on a bear hunt with me. What a rush seeing deer that big-bodied. Hal even went bird hunting with me on that trip, and we managed to get into some woodcock with my Brittany's. Must not have been on a bear hunt. I don't
Is
know.
there a question here, Hal?
Yeah, I'm getting to that. Hey, don't blame me. I told you I had to read this whole thing.
He'll read this whole thing, and the question would be, do you use aftershave or not?
All right,
I lost my
now
place.
he's feeling the pressure now.
That awesome
Hooked on
vacation.
phonics.
That awesome vacation was in the fall of 95 and 96. I still believe it planted the seed and desire to someday learn how to track deer in the snow. I even still have and still grouse hunt on my old school trucker's hat. Anyway, the main difficulty I've encountered trying to track deer in my area is a lack of snow, which I can't control, steepness of the terrain, talking topo lines very tightly packed together for thousands of feet at a time, but I do not have control of this either. The most difficult and point my question are very large rhododendron thickets. I think that's mountain laurel too, ain't it? I think it's mountain laurel.
I'm not a
in the
botanist.
south. Huh?
No.
Or an
Rhododendron.
arborist.
Must be like which?
No, it's not.
No.
It's green. It's rhododendron. So I think it's mountain laurel. What I would know because I've seen it. Once you get down even to Massachusetts, you get it.
Yeah.
And the thickets that you cannot even crawl through where deer tend to bed, I imagine. This past season, I shot 2 small bucks, a spike and a 4-pointer while tracking in the snow. Both were on high hardwood ridges, and my main difficulty and question involves tracks
Drum roll, please.
that go into these massive thickets, more common in the lower elevations that are so thick you cannot follow deer through, and you can't circle to hunt effectively. I'm sure they're big thickets. It doesn't make no sense to circle unless you want to see if the deer come out. I usually try to avoid these laurel rhododendron areas altogether and hunt the high hardwoods and spruce ridges for tracks. Do you guys have any thoughts of circumstances that would be in northern Maine equivalent to my nemesis, the southern Appalachian rhododendron, or strategies for dealing with tracks that lead you into areas you cannot hunt effectively? Or does the terrain allow you to follow tracks wherever they lead you in the big woods of Maine? My dream is someday to retire and hunt the big-bodied deer up in Maine during each November. But for now, the present means I have to practice tracking wherever the opportunity presents itself down in Dixie. Sincerely, Russell Page. So, there we go.
Forest fire.
Yeah.
Get rid of that rhododendron.
I've seen it.
There you go. Question answered.
Yeah. I remember that stuff. I went on somewhere, it was in central Mass. I hunted years and years ago, one couple of days down there, and I remember getting into that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's about just over your head, and it's green, and it's scraggly. You can't get through it.
Yeah.
The deer have little trails through it and stuff, because they're shorter, but a human being can't walk through it. But as for my thing is it's probably similar to, you get into a thick cedar bog or any of the thick fir patches would be the same way, but usually they're not that expansive. But
I always think if the deer goes through it, I can usually find a way through it, but the worst is fir trees that are super tight, but usually they won't walk through those super, really, really tight ones.
I've hunted Virginia, and I've seen some of them thickets, and you can't walk through them.
No.
They rip your clothes right off.
And I would say probably down there's more deer, obviously, than there is up here. I would say the deer population's more. So if you get in there on a track, it's going to be a mess of tracks anyways.
Yeah.
So I would think the only way would be to circle around and see if it come out, because if you can't get through it, I mean, if you could get through it and just try to, I mean, what I do here is, and I've, many a times, if you get into that stuff that's just so thick, I know I'm not going to shoot the buck in there, but at least I can get him out of that place, and maybe he'll end up somewhere where you can get a shot. He'll end up in them hardwood ridges or something. But other than that, the only thing I could think of would be to circle it and see if he comes out. And if he doesn't, try to get him out somehow. Okay. You must have some of them thickets up your way, and them cedar bogs, huh, Joel?
Yeah. First of all, I was going to say maybe you tall guys couldn't get through it, but us short guys can get through pretty easy.
I never thought of that.
That's what I would probably try to get through it if I could, and push them into a spot eventually that would, maybe get more open so you get a shot at them. If it's thick enough and they know it's cover, sometimes they might not come out of there unless you go in.
Yeah.
I always thought rhododendron were just garden flowers for around the house, and when I Google it, that's what I see. So I'm curious what.
Well, it's called mountain laurel. I know that's what the local name is, called mountain laurel. But I would relate it to some. You know what our white cedar is? It's cedar to us, but if you plant it in your yard, it's called arborvitaes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, if arborvitae is a shrub that they plant in your landscapers will plant it, but it's really white cedar. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I was taking a guy bird hunting one time. We had to go through some of that, walking through on one of them old winter roads, or truck roads or something through the woods, and he goes, "You got all this arborvitae here?" And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, all this arborvitaes." And I go, "What the heck's an arbor? What do you look?" He's pointing it out to me. I said, "That's cedar." And he goes, "No, that's arborvitaes." From New Jersey or something. Yeah, that's what they plant as shrubs, but
I think must be bushy like a shrub.
I wonder if it's thorny.
No, it isn't. No, it's got green, but it never loses the leaves. If you had a rhododendron shrub in your yard, it stays green all the time. Yeah. But it never grows tall. It'll get over your head or something, and it's really scraggly. It comes out where it grows out of the root, and then it just immediately starts branching out, and it's really stiff. Yeah. And it all intertwines, and it's quite a canopy. But what I would tell Russell is hunt where you can get a look at one. Don't hunt in that crap,
Yeah.
Because you're not going to shoot them in there anyway.
Yeah, he said in the question, he said there's hardwood ridges and spruce tops. I think I'd spend more time trying to find something heading up into the higher country with finding a track there. Or if it was bare ground, I think that's where I'd hunt anyway. Just hunt somewhere where you can see. Yeah.
Good question, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Even here,
I think like up here, fortunately, even if you get to within 50 yards of a deer that's in that stuff, they hear you coming, they're going to take off, and so you don't even have to go through it half the time. But up here, maybe they stay hidden more down where he.
Yeah. No, I don't. He indicated that there was large expanses of it, which would seem to me, and I mean, obviously, that's why them deer go in there, because they're safe. They feel.
Yeah.
Something rattles in there after them, they got an escape route or something. But
I never would have thought of tracking down there, though. I mean, if they got the elevation, they're going to have it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He said they don't get it that often, but that's pretty interesting. And did I tell you guys about the guy that contacted me from Australia that they tracked down there?
Yeah,
No.
You said, I've heard you speak of it.
Yeah. Yeah, he bought some, I think he bought the clothes or something there, but I didn't even know it snowed in Australia. But I guess in the northern, must be the southern because it's colder down south over there. In the mountains, they get snow, and they got some kind of a deer they track around in there in the snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, who'd have thought? But so yeah,
Let's go try it.
yeah, and that sounds like
Sounds good to me. Company trip.
yeah,
Make it happen, Chris.
yeah.
Is there season in October?
No, I would think down in Australia it would be in the spring because
yeah, probably right now.
yeah.
Well, we wouldn't miss our November season here, so let's
Hal
go.
looked up like he was thinking, I want to see him work this one out.
We'll have to talk to the CEO, won't we?
Yep, I'll let you do that.
Yeah, yeah. So
I don't think he's with his foot there. I don't think he's in the greatest moods here lately.
He's always good when I call him. But
Yeah, he figured out an issue from
maybe
Rhode Island this morning for us that we couldn't figure out here, and he
Oh yeah, we were doing a sound check here and it was reverberating, but
Yeah.
yeah, he walked
he's
us.
pretty sharp, that guy.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
well, that's why I keep him
I think-
around.
I think the biggest thing is for him to actually sit down and let the foot heal. That probably bugs him worse than anything.
Oh yeah, he feels helpless. Like the day
Yeah.
after it happened, like he had it done on a Thursday. And that Saturday, I had that whitetails banquet to speak at, and he goes, "I'm going to come over with you. I won't be able to do a lot." I'm like, "Hey, bub, you won't be going anywhere 2 days after you have that done." I said, "That thing's
Yeah.
going to be throbbing so bad you won't want to put it on the floor."
yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
can't imagine.
Turns out I was right, and I knew it because I had it done. And I know for a week I sat in my easy chair with my, the thing up. You can't put it down because it'll swell. The blood flows down there, and it's bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, well, all right. We took care of that question for Russell, and we got anything to promote here? Oh, the Woodman Arms. The guys have been doing. You guys might not even know it too, but they've been the last few weekends. The guys met up down at Woodman Arms down by Timmy's there, and they've been doing some filming of the talking about explaining it. Plus, they did some shooting too and filmed that. So
Nice.
we got that coming out, and then they also been working on a whole web page about it. So it's only thing we had it in the storefront, the Woodman Arms muzzleloader, but we're going to have a whole dedicated page to explaining it, and it'll have the videos of shooting and the features of it. They're explaining the guys. I think it was Tim and Mark and Chris, Mark Shireen, and then Mark Woodman. I think them.
Yep.
They did it all, so that's pretty cool. So they've been selling.
It's a great muzzleloader.
Yeah, that's what you used one this year too, right?
Yeah, the last 2 seasons I've had it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I like
And that had nothing to do with my mess.
Yeah, that was operator error, wasn't it?
That was definitely operator error.
Yeah, I'm glad I've never missed a deer.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh. I'm going to tell you, though, all that stuff, your misses and all your goof-ups, you learn more from those than the ones you actually get because it's a painful lesson and you don't want to repeat it, so you really learn from that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So, anyways, we'll be down. We already talked about the last time the Maine Sportsman Show. Yeah. Oh, we do want to put a little mention on the Big Woods Outfitters stuff. So we're doing pretty good on that, Joe. We got, I think I might have 1 or possibly 2 guided trips left, guided openings, and then that depends on Lee how much.
I was
more
going to
he's
say, how
do.
much is he going to guide?
I'm committed.
He's taking Ed.
You
I'm
should be
taking
committed.
it.
It's more like it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's committed.
Or maybe I should for
He's-
volunteering.
He's committed to.
Yeah.
He's committed to himself.
Yeah, committed. All right.
Yeah.
I am about the most selfish person I know.
So, anyways, but we got plenty of lodging left for people that want to come up on. Any of you guys want to come up on American Plan and chum with the team members there during the evenings and stuff. We got the American Plan, which is meals and lodging, and have a nice place at the lodge to stay, and at the cabins of the lodge, and then have your meals and we'll send you off into some hot spots. Lee's going to be directing traffic for that. He's going to be giving out all the hot spots. And
Yeah.
And
You'll be surprised what a bottle of Tito's will get out of me.
I wouldn't.
everybody that shows up this fall will bring a bottle of Tito's.
Why do you think I said it?
Yeah. What do you mix that with, Lee?
Oh, very little bit of cranberry juice.
Okay. Yeah.
Might go over to Joe's place and have lunch here in a few minutes.
I think that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Glad you guys are hungry.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up then. Hope you guys enjoyed the little laughing session today. And till next time, good luck on the trail. Thanks for joining, Joel.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good day.
All right. Keep them potatoes flowing up there.
Yeah. Don't forget about my cedar logs over there at Maine Mountain Mill Works.
Yeah, we'll be talking to you soon on that.
All right.
Good luck on the trail, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.